considerable uncertainty over the president's planned appearance at the National Assembly tomorrow, as the Attorney General of the Federation releases a statement saying the National Assembly doesn't have the constitutional right to summon the president. And tonight we take a look at the intrigues of Rivers State politics with the recent gale of defections across political parties and what has been termed a cold war between the party leaders in the state. Hello and welcome to Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Okikelu from Lagos. Well, our package tonight for you begins with a deep dive into the politics of security at the very top level of government. It's no news that the nation is battling a multiplicity of security challenges across states and regions, so complex that the House of Representatives had to pass a resolution inviting the president to speak on the security situation and maybe unravel the complexities for the National Assembly and, by extension, you as a Nigerian. Well, this plan was going smoothly, or so it seemed, up until yesterday when some APC governors reportedly prevailed on the president not to make good on his commitment to address the hallowed chambers. Their reason? Well, for one, they seem to believe the president will be embarrassed by the opposition during his appearance, thereby making a bad situation even worse. It is even said that this might embolden the state houses of assembly to pass similar resolutions inviting the governors to address them on state affairs. So, while the speculations continued all through last night into today, another perspective has been thrown into the works, well, this time from the government. Or less than 24 hours to that scheduled session, the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, says the lawmakers do not have any constitutional right to summon the president on his operational use of the armed forces. Mr. Malami's comment is contained in a statement he released today, where he explained that the confidentiality of strategies employed by the president as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces is not open for public exposure. Take a look at some of what he said. He says, the fact that President Muhammadu Buhari was instrumental to the reclaiming of over 14 local government previously controlled by Boko Haram in the northeast is an open secret. The strategies for such achievement are not open for public expose. The right of the president to engage the National Assembly and appear before it is inherently discretionary in the president and not at the behest of the National Assembly. He goes on to say, as a commander-in-chief, the president has exclusivity on security and has confidentiality over security. These powers, he says, and rights he does not share. So, by summoning the president on national security operational matters, the House of Reps operated outside constitutional bounds. President's exclusivity of constitutional confidentiality investiture within the context of the Constitution remains sacrosanct. But that statement is, well, silent on whether the president will be attending or not specifically. So that appearance still hangs in the balance. So joining us tonight on the program are two gentlemen who might help us see the merits, maybe the demerits, and the possibility of the president honoring that invitation. And they will be speaking from the political angle, of course. Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu is an APC chieftain and former minority leader of the House of Representatives. He joins us from our Abuja studio. And here in Lagos, we have Mr. Segun Shomi, spokesperson, PDP Presidential Campaign Council 2019 elections. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the program. Well, let me begin with Honorable Aliyu. You are close to the president, quite close to the president, really, and you have known him for years. So based on your interactions with the president, do you know him as someone who will give his commitment and then renege on it?
The person I know in President Buhari, yes, when he keeps commitment, he keeps to it. But there is a caveat to everything. As at today, as at this time, I don't know whether Mr. President is going to appear before the National Assembly or not. But if you ask for my personal opinion, then I could go on to say that, So let me just stop at what he said. Whether he keeps to promises, yes, he does.
So based on that, I mean, that interaction, that knowledge you have of the president, he should honor that invitation, especially because the Speaker of the House of Representatives met with the president and he said he gave his commitment to attend that particular assembly. So based on that, you're saying the president will attend?
Well, the president may attend. I don't know. I don't know. But look, you see, there are so many things to this issue of president appearing or not appearing. Personally, from my personal view, as former minority leader in the House, I don't think the president should appear, honestly, from political angle. Because, look, not at this time of the moment when things are so difficult. The country is going through challenges. And so is the president going to appear there to tell the National Assembly the strategies being taken by the government? Is he going there for interactive session? And look, we are in politics. Not even the speaker can promise the president or assure the president or his party that, look, Mr. President cannot be embarrassed or may not be embarrassed. And look, we're all Nigerians. And as a people, you know, instead of us to rally around and get to the root of this thing and try to collectively solve it. But now here we are debating whether president should appear before National Assembly to speak or not. As I said, I don't know. He might appear, he might not. But left to me, if I were to advise Mr. President, I would tell Mr. President not to go, to probably allow service chiefs to go, other security chiefs to go and explain, because there are certain details that should probably be explained in camera, not in the open. Because look, we're running a country. We're not running a market. So these are some of my personal assessment.
We'll touch on some of these issues, really, the talk about embarrassment. But let's get Mr. Shomi's opening comments on this. So a lot of back and forth. I'm sure you've been following it. But let's look at the merits and demerits of the president really honoring this invitation. Do you think it will change anything?
First of all, I want to say that it's important that we try to put these things in context. What distinguishes a democracy from every other form of government, monarchy, dictatorship, and all that is the legislature. And the legislature has such hollowed responsibility because they represent the totality of the people via some form of collegiate voting patterns. Therefore, you will then ask, what is wrong with the Buhari presidency? You have to beg them to do a press conference where the president is asked questions by senior journalists. You have to beg them to have the president spontaneously speak to the people of the nation at important issues, especially when the nation is maybe angling or eager to hear him. You have to beg them for almost everything that even this country, in spite of our very young democracy, has become used to as a way. And they will give you the usual excuse. Every man has his style. Granted. The question now is, it gets a bit offensive when the Attorney General of the Federation runs to the constitutionality of whether the president can be invited. Ask him, the Attorney General, is there anywhere in the Constitution where it's expressly written that the president should summon governors at will? When he invites the governor, do they not show up? So you feel that we've created a presidency, especially for the Buhari presidency, where the entire infrastructure, including the citizens of the nation, we have been told now we have to pamper the president. For the president, people may die, but the potential embarrassment that can happen to a president under some kind of question and answer or maybe light banter is a problem. You then have to ask, do they not watch parliamentary arrangement in other countries where maybe the leader goes to the Senate, the Rep, or even the British Parliament and see the kinds of sometimes vexatious questions that are thrown at him? The totality of what makes you a statesman is how you handle this question. And I think that, well, let me just say to them, everybody has given up on President Muhammadu Buhari as a president within the context of the Nigerian presidency. At best, we are all holding our breath and just waiting that, oh God, let this cup pass over us so we can just begin to build on it. Why? Because the president does not want to engage the citizens. The issues we're talking about are very dire. Nobody is going to ask him to come and start talking about operational procedures of an armed forces when they're in combat. No. But to say that the president of a country cannot be invited by the legislature, you will have to blame the legislature. For if the legislature had done what it was supposed to do with itself, had developed the independence that was guaranteed it by the Constitution and some oversight responsibility, no president would dare say, lackadaisically, through his attorney general, whoever, that those who can sign an appropriation bill and give you the powers to run and fund and do all the things you do cannot invite you for a friendly parley in parliament. I think it just shows that every other aspect of democracy has been growing except the legislature.
You know, Honorable Ali, he has raised some issues, and also add to this the fact that this is also about the commitment that was given by the president. I mean, the speaker came out of that meeting and said, well, the president has given his commitment. In fact, he mentioned that the Senate president was also there to bear witness. So regarding the commitment and to some of the issues Mr. Shoumi raised, do you still think the president should not honor that invitation?
You know, commitments, yes, are commitments, but then certain things can change, you know. You know, my brother showed me, Mr. Shegun, probably, you know, he's talking about other countries. It's so convenient for us to compare us and other climes where this relates. We're not operating a parliamentary system here that the president is bound to come and defend certain actions before the parliament. And so this is probably going to be a novelty. What we are used to, the practice here is the president to come and lay the budget before the National Assembly. But that's not, you know, that's not the issue. The issue is the security situation of the country. Agreed. You know, we have challenges, whether the government needs to do more, whether the government needs to do better. That's what we are going to discuss. If the president goes to National Assembly, will the problems just go away just like that? No. What are the strategies? And then if my colleagues in the National Assembly feel that in case the president does not go, which means the whole security situation in the country will get worse. No, but there are certain, you know, I was also subcommittee chairman on DSS when I was in the House. There are some privileged discussions that are only done by select few. And the way things are now, as of today, there is so much tension. There are so many things that the president might come and divulge, and probably even Mr. Shoumi will say, look, why did he even go? He shouldn't have gone. That's if you have the interest of this country at heart. And
Honorable Aliyu.
Look, Mr. President Buhari is not an orator. So and that's gift. There are orators, there are people who can go and talk and talk and talk. People are different. People do things differently. That is his style. And in the wisdom of the people of this country, voted for him twice. As I said, whether there are challenges, yes, there are challenges. Whether the government should do better and more, yes, the government should do better and more. I mean, let's discuss along that line. But let us not put the president going to National Assembly or not going as a matter of preference. I think my colleagues should understand and look, move forward. Probably invite the services, as I said.
Honorable
so
Aliyu,
they will come and explain to them, also in camera.
Even more than the service chiefs, the president is a veteran military person for years. So are you saying that there's a possibility that the president might slip and divulge very sensitive information about security situation in the country?
Well, because you see, you wouldn't know what questions might come. You know, you cannot determine this. And he could not just go there and also not say anything or not try to give them answers. It will probably look like he's just there to intimidate them. So, as I said, left to me, if Mr. President will take my advice, I will tell him not to go. Right. Simple. That's just it. And look, the Speaker is from our party, the Senate President is from our party, and our party has made a stand that, look, Mr. President should not go. So he shouldn't go. Simple. Let us politicians go and talk over it and see what is the best way to come about the solution of security in this country.
Mr. Shoumi, So time and again, there have been talks about plans by the PDP lawmakers to embarrass or ambush the president. Is there anything of sort in the works?
Look, I don't imagine any responsible lawmaker, be it PDP or APC, at this material time, who will be interested in the embarrassment of a man who has probably, with due respect, embarrassed himself enough as it is. You're dealing with a situation where there is a systemic pattern of lack of desire to communicate with the people. Have you removed the possibility that that presidential conversation could infuse hope? Do you know the power of just the president infusing hope and just telling the people, I'm on it, some of these things are going on, some I can tell you, some I cannot tell you, but be rest assured, this is happening. Do you know the implication for the honorable members when their constituents are probably thinking that they're sitting down in the comfort of the hallowed chamber and doing absolutely nothing? Look, if the president doesn't go, the heavens would not fall. But we are saying that there's a pattern here. We practically had to beg him to speak to the Nigerian youths when they took out on the whole street and shut down everything. It doesn't have to be an orator. We've seen this man over the years. So when he delivers a speech, frankly, he delivers it well. And no one should come and pussyfoot us by giving us the impression that he doesn't even know how to talk. He can be guided. The people who will ask questions can be screened. The speaker and the senator, whoever is in charge, can guarantee that anybody who goes in front of national television, in front of the entire world, only to embarrass himself, claiming he's embarrassing the president, does himself a lot of harm.
Mr. Shomi.
We are protecting the presidency too much. We're creating the impression that the Buhari presidency is a clone or a cocoon or a cabal or what do you call like a coven of very dark forces who are not willing to be seen in the light.
Let me bring this in. Do you recall in 2012 when then President Goodluck Jonathan was invited, summoned, some people use the term summoned, by the House of Representatives? Do you remember if he attended or honored that invite?
That's in 2012?
12, yes.
That was a long time ago. I don't have any recollection.
Okay. So here's what happened. The House of Representatives invited then President Goodluck Jonathan to speak on security situation. You recall there were killings, bombings in Kaduna, Yobe, Boko Haram. And, you know, the spokesperson of the president at that time said, well, they can't just rely on newspapers. They need to get an official letter. And that eventually ended in the president
Did they write the official letter?
Not showing up. Okay. So in this case now, people have drawn, you know, inferences saying that if it happened then, what rights?
Do you know the problem I have with this country? We make it seem as if bad behavior by one administration is now the standard. We are not going to be stuck in the character deficiency of previous administration. Please, we must constantly up the ante for ourselves, and we must constantly improve on our own procedures. Like I said, the world is not going to come to an end if it doesn't attain. But there is a pattern to, it's as if you have to beg them just to engage the citizens. And if you ask, when was the last time the president had a media party with top executive, them asking him a question and him answering? When was the last time? You can't even recollect that. Why? They'll tell you he doesn't know how to answer questions. And this is a president that those that are close to him tell you he's very funny, he's very witty, he can handle his own and all that. Why are they shielding him as if he's a baby?
Gentlemen, we need to go on a quick break now. But when we return, I mean, there are issues to also talk about regarding the call by your party, at least a member of your party, for the impeachment of the president regarding the security situation. And of course, the governors of the APC prevailing on the president. Some wonder why. Isn't that anti-people? We'll touch on these issues when we return in a moment. Please stay with us. You're welcome back. Honorable Farouk Aliyu and Mr. Shegun Showumi still with us on the program discussing security, especially the planned appearance by President Muhammadu Buhari before the National Assembly tomorrow. Well, it's still quite uncertain, especially because of that statement from the Attorney General. So, gentlemen, Honorable Aliyu, so the Attorney General put out that statement saying that the House of Representatives are operating outside their constitutional bounds. You were a member. Do you agree with that?
Well, you see, I'm not sure of that because the section of the Constitution that speaks about members of the National Assembly inviting anybody I cannot remember whether including Mr. President, this kind of invitation. But then there is penalty for invitation when members of National Assembly invite someone and the person does not appear. That's if it's formal. That person could be committed to prison. Mr. President, it's covered by Section 308 of the Constitution. That's in case, even if they don't agree with what the Attorney General is saying. So, but I don't want us to even go that way. Let us go in a manner of Nigerians. What does our country need? What do we do to make this country better? Is it by Mr. President appearing before National Assembly? Is that why they are calling for impeachment? Well, I dare Mr. Show-Me and his party to attempt to impeach Mr. President if they can. They cannot. Absolutely. So, and we've been through this before. And I honestly sympathize with Mr. Show-Me because I was in opposition. I knew the kind of frustration he's going through now, and that's it. So they will have to, sit and watch because Nigerians have vested in us, our party, our president, the mandate to rule the country, to lead the country, and we're doing it. Whether we have challenges, yes, we do. Whether there are things that we could have done better, yes, there are. Whether we need cooperation of everybody, yes, we do. Just like if PDP is in government today, we will cooperate with the government as well because we are talking about the security of Nigerians, not security of APC members. But if politicians, like my brother, see it as a problem of just APC, well, when the NSAS problem started, all of us were engulfed in it. When armed robbers attack, all of us are in it. When Boko Haram attack, all of us are in it. So what do we do as a nation to make sure things are done better? That's what we should be talking about.
Well, Honorable Aliyu, if we could just talk on this briefly. So how do you transmit that trust? I mean, how do you tell people this is what we're doing if such opportunities as the one presented by the National Assembly is missed?
Well, the opportunities does not just lie with President going to National Assembly. There are interactions. The same leadership of the National Assembly can meet privately with the President, and if they so wish to divulge information, just like what my brother is saying, they are representing the whole country. Yes, they are. The Senate President, the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Reps are leaders of the Assembly. So if by interacting with Mr. President privately and in their wisdom, they feel like divulging the information that would have been discussed between them and Mr. President to their colleagues, so be it. But these are the kind of interactions we do. These are the kind of confidence building that we are doing between us and Nigerians.
All right. Now,
through
Mr.
the
Show-Me,
representatives, of course.
So as it stands, Mr. Show-Me, it's still uncertain. I thought it was going to be clearer at this stage of the program, but it's still uncertain whether the president will be attending. So what are the options available to the PDP at the National Assembly at various levels regarding security? You've said this is a collective work, so what are the options available?
I first of all want to say that it's painful to listen to a high-ranking, good-standing friend of mine in the ruling party think that opposition work is frustrating. How? If the duty and the responsibility is to solve the problem before all of us as Nigerians, the responsibility of opposition is to articulate some suggestion and prop them in directions that we're saying. And I'm saying emphatically that you lose the opportunity to communicate hope to the citizens when the number one man on whose table the bulk falls always dodges every opportunity to speak to them. Of course, it cannot be compelled. If the legislature were interested in compelling him, I am sure they can be creative enough to bring up a couple of impeachable offenses, serve him, and the impeachment may even fail. The fact is that it will be on record that some decent Nigerians insisted that we will not sit and accept a situation where we're going to be served by an absentee landlord. That's on that. What should we do? Look, we should understand that as a nation, our policing models no longer work. If our policing model was working, we will not be having a fire brigade approach all over the place. We need to do a multimodal policing. We said that clearly during campaign, but it's not time for that now. We should also recognize as a people that it bothers me sometimes. How come security, intelligence in this country seem to have taken the very, very distant, not even the back seat, the absent seat? They are not able to tell us that they foiled anything. It's always the army having to go help out, the police always jumping around. We need to rejig the security architecture of the country. Again, you cannot have your service chief be on duty and people are dying, and you would insist that in spite of their tenure and the terms and how long they should have been there, you're going to keep extending it. And when we then say, hey, what's going on? You're going to say, oh, the security reason, the president can't talk to you. Look, at the end of the day, some of us agonize when we hear the rushes of this thing. Do you know for how many nights I could literally not sleep, just imagining that people put farmers, tie them on the ground and slaughter them in this country? And when we say, oh, wow, these are our citizens, we are not supposed to accept that killing of our innocent citizens, wherever they may be killed, is now acceptable in the country.
You know, it's
and if, for whatever reason, legislators that are made up of their party, not ours, the Senate president is from APC, the speaker is from APC, if they go to the president and they come and they get an understanding from him that he will come and speak to Nigerians via a hollow chamber, and then you're being legalist about it.
You know, clearly there's a lot of angles to touch on this, gentlemen, but I understand that we're pressed for time. But I'd like to appreciate you, Mr. Segun Showumi, who is spokesperson PDP Presidential Campaign Council 2019 elections, and as well as Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu, an APC chieftain and former minority leader of the House of Representatives. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having us.